From the Pep Radio Newsroom, these are the stories we are following at this hour. We start with this forewarning that this opening story is particularly disturbing unless, of course, you're a narrow-minded idiot that voted for Pumpkin Führer Trump. The incoming Trump administration's impact is already being felt at some local school districts, particularly when it comes to setting policies for LGBTQ students. During a discussion of proposed restrictions on what pronouns students can use in the school, Eastern New York School Board President Doug Bailey said the district doesn't want to violate Title IX. Board member Cindy Rohrbaugh retorted, in light of the recent administration change, Title IX should no longer be a deterrent to us. We should be able to move ahead with this policy. The interaction reflects greater uncertainty about the future of LGBTQ rights following the election of Donald Trump in November. The Biden administration expanded Title IX's student anti-discrimination protections for the LGBTQ community, including gender identity. The new rules went into effect in August, impacting many, but not all, Pennsylvania school districts. President-elect and wholehearted fascist Donald Trump has vowed to reverse those provisions. We're going to end it on day one, Trump said during the presidential campaign on the radio talk show Kyle and Company. While campaigning, Trump went further. He would pull federal funding from schools that pushed, quote, gender ideology or other inappropriate or political content on our children. Title IX's protection for LGBTQ students came up locally in recent years as far-right conservatives on school boards across York County pursued new restrictions against them. Those school policies concerning athletics, bathrooms, and pronouns were drafted by a nonprofit Christian law firm, the Harrisburg-based Independence Law Center. Christina Moon, senior attorney at the Education Law Center, said the law firm expected Trump to significantly impede the progress of students' rights, which could include revising Title IX again. The survey found 72% of transgender and gender-questioning teens experienced persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness in the past year. These teens also reported higher rates of bullying at school compared with their peers. About 1 in 4 transgender students said they had attempted suicide in the past year, according to the CDC. Eastern New York advanced another version of a pronouns policy which requires guardians' permission to allow students to use pronouns that do not correlate with their sex assigned at birth. Currently, 4 districts in the bigoted York County, Red Lion, Northern York County, Southwestern, and Southern York County, have a version of the policy authored by the right-wing, illegitimate Harrisburg-based Independence Law Center. The ILC's version says staff and students are bullshit and should not be forced to use language inconsistent with their beliefs that they just made up their entire lives, and should be allowed to refer to the student by neutral names or last names as long as they don't misgender or misname the student. Get a clue, York County. You guys are really behind the times, and frankly, I am sick of it. And now this news from Ohio. Several bills impacting Ohio's LGBTQ community became law in 2024, including a ban on certain medical care for transgender youth and legislation regulating school restroom use. The Ohio State House passed 3 bills and advanced a few others this year that opponents deem anti-LGBTQ+. That's an understatement. Among more than 570 proposed laws nationwide that the American Civil Liberties Union has listed under the same designation. This year's round of legislation continues an unprecedented wave of more than 725 similar bills that were introduced in 2023. Think about that for a minute, folks. 725 similar bills introduced in 2023 that carry on this right-wing agenda of smashing the LGBTQ community, and yet several of you voted for the Pumpkin Führer. A Franklin County judge ruled in August that Ohio's law banning gender-affirming care for trans youth, House Bill 68, can go into effect after being on hold for several months. The ruling followed a 5-day trial that took place in July after the ACLU filed a lawsuit against the measure in March on behalf of 2 families whose children are at risk of losing access to their health care. They'd be better off in Canada. Okay? Pack up, get out of Ohio, and move to Canada or Michigan or Pennsylvania or somewhere that isn't half as bigoted as frickin' Ohio. Children are just not old enough. They're not mature enough to be able to make these lifelong decisions, said Representative Gary Bastard, Republican from Vickery. The legislation's primary sponsor when House Bill 68 was enacted. We wanted to put on the brakes and say, wait a minute, this is an adult decision. Yeah, says you. You haven't, you know what? I'll let that one slide. The ACLU argued the legislation violates the Ohio Constitution's single subject rule, requiring bills to only be about one topic, considering that's about all people from Ohio can handle at any given time. Given the measure addresses trans healthcare and also bans trans female athletes' participation in women's sports, the legal challenge came after State House voted to override Governor Mike DeWine's veto. Our advice to those folks living in Ohio who have LGBTQ plus children is simply this. If you are able, move to Michigan, Pennsylvania, or Canada. Get out of Ohio with all due speed. It is one of the worst states in the nation. You don't deserve to live there. You need to get out. It is not a safe place to be if you're part of the LGBTQ plus community. Lord knows I left it 27 years ago and will never, ever in my life return. The bigotry in the State House in Columbus radiates through the Republican House and Senate members as badly as the orange spray tan radiates across the incoming pumpkin Führer Trump. That's the news at this hour. Happy damn New Year, folks. We'll be back in 2025 with more news and hopefully a little less attitude. But we make no promises. Be sure to download the Live 365 app to take Pep Radio with you wherever you go. Now let's get back to some more music here on Pep Radio.